The greatest single limitation on success in America, in the world today, is lack of confidence. It's not that we can't do it. We have capacities and abilities beyond anything that we have ever thought of in our whole life. You know, if you used your talents to the full for the rest of your life, you would never even use a fraction of what you're actually capable of, based on all the research that's been done. We are right now functioning, according to Stanford Brain Institute, with about 2% of our brain power. 2%. The rest of it is huge, this huge reserve of brain power, which we're kind of keeping there in case we ever need a little. You know, we got so much of it, it's unbelievable. Well, so I said to myself, what is the key here? And you know what? There's a common denominator of helplessness and habit. And the common denominators are fear and ignorance. Fear and ignorance. We're afraid. We're afraid it might not work. We're afraid we might fail. We're afraid it might cost us something. We're afraid of criticism and embarrassment. We're afraid of failure and loss and limitation and lack and ill health and disapproval. We're so afraid. The things that we would do if we weren't afraid are literally beyond belief. And we're afraid of getting out of the comfort zone because of what they might say. What if we did something different, changed jobs, changed careers, started a business, got into something else? What would they say? Do you know, I was listening to a psychologist talking the other day. He says, nobody's ever been able to define who they are. But it's they out there. It's the great almighty they that's got us terrified. You know, it's a true statement. We say that when you're in your 20s, you don't care what people think. And when you're in your 30s, you're very sensitive to what people think. And then you get into your 40s. And in your 40s, you realize the great truth is that no one was ever thinking about you at all. And that's the fact. Nobody ever thinks about us at all. And there we are. We're so terrified of doing what we really want to do because of what they might say or think. So we stay in that.
Your life. When did you start playing basketball, and at what age did it become your primary focus?
You know, I think I was just born to play, man. I started playing at like 2 years old. And my father wasn't one of these fathers that was like, you're going to play basketball, or, you know, he wasn't one of those guys. It was just kind of, I was just around the game a lot, and I gravitated to the ball, and I was completely geeking out about like the smell of the ball and like the way it sounds when it hits concrete versus how it hits a parquet floor, and like the sound of the nets and the different material of the nets. And you know, there's certain basketball hoops, like in high school gyms and in college gyms, the rim sits slightly above the lower part of the backboard, and it was like, I was geeking out if I got into a gym which was like the NBA, with the lower stanchion of the backboard and the hoop were completely parallel with each other. Like little shit like that would freak me out. So to answer your question, I was born to do this thing, man, and I did it nonstop all day long, from the age of 2 to.
In the final analysis, there are two parts of courage. Remember, Winston Churchill once said that courage is rightly considered the foremost of the virtues, for upon it all others depend. Courage is defined as the ability to act and to go forward in the face of uncertainty. It's to face the fact that you may not succeed. It's the willingness to take chances and to take risks. The future belongs to the risk takers. The future belongs to people who are willing to take the risks necessary. The second part of courage is persistence. It's the willingness to endure. It's the willingness to hang in there. Once you've started and you have begun, there is a period between when you begin and when you get some result. And in that period, most people break and run. Most people fall apart. They cannot stand not knowing, so they rush back to their comfort zone. This is basically true in all the psychological work that's been done. But what you have to do is be willing to persist in the face of adversity, even though there is no guarantee of success. And here's the wonderful thing. When you persist, your self-esteem goes up. Each time you force yourself to stay in there, your self-esteem goes up. You like yourself more. You respect yourself more. You feel more confident. You feel better about yourself. In fact, in the ultimate end, you don't even mind losing because you've persisted. But here's the second thing, is persistence is self-discipline in action. And self-discipline is the foundation quality of a great personality. Everything we've talked about really depends upon our having the discipline to do it. And self-discipline means the willingness to do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. Do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. And if you can persist, you develop the habit of persistence. If you develop the habit of persistence, pretty soon you get to the point where nothing will stop you and you become unstoppable. In other words, everything we've talked about is that you build your own character. You create yourself in the image that you imagine for yourself. And your goal must be to become absolutely unstoppable in anything you do. Your goal must be to set big dreams and to set goals and to take responsibility and, by gum, to make anything out of your life that you want to make out of, to do anything that you want, because there's no limits. At least there's no limits that you'll ever reach or I'll ever reach in our life.
You're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder whether you made the right call and have no way to know for years. This is what hard feels like, and that's okay. Everything worth doing is hard, and the more worth doing it is, the harder it is. The greater the payoff, the greater the hardship. If it's hard, good. It means no one else will do it. More for you.
Control my adrenals. If you know how you get that fight or flight response when you get to move real quick.
Yeah.
And I started learning the mind a lot, how to get myself jacked extremely fast, like in a horrible environment when everybody's miserable. I learned how to really find strength in the misery. When everybody's suffering, everybody's all poopy pants and their mentality's down and everything, I started just like, my God, this is where I shine. And I started using all that misery for tons and tons of drive and motivation to then lead people further. Because you can get a lot of power through misery. And once people see that, my God, Goggins is fucking going, then everybody says, Roger that. Let me get my shit and go too. So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people.
I think a lot of entrepreneurship and even personal growth is training yourself on how you respond to hard. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. I should, this is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
And I think if you can shift from this is hard to no one else will be able to do this, then it flips from being this thing that you're like, oh, poor me, to, oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try. Yeah. And I think that is so much more motivating as a frame for the exact same circumstance.
This is what I found. What if somebody came to that elephant and said, Mr. Elephant, you don't have to stay here. You can do anything you want. You're the biggest animal in the world. That little thing can't hold you. All you have to do is pop loose and you can go. And he says, no, no, no. I've been stuck here for years, and every time I'm tied up, I stay here. Why? Well, because of this and because that's a habit. I can't and I can't. I wish I would. I wonder. Whoa. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm male, female, young, old, educated, uneducated. So what we say is, look, just try. Just try. I say, The very thought of trying something new or different is traumatic for most people. All right, I'll try it. All right. Pop. And the elephant thinks, my God, I've been tied up and made to work like a slave all these years, and that's what's been holding me. And the elephant gets mad and it goes looking for its owner. And what do you call an elephant that gets mad and goes looking for its owner? You call it what? A rogue elephant, that's right. Now, each one of you has the capacity to be a rogue elephant, because you know something? There's nothing holding us back except the limitations we have in our own mind. That elephant is, in reality, unstoppable. And the most important goal that you can develop, the most important quality or characteristic that you can develop for happiness and success is to be unstoppable yourself, is to think of yourself as unstoppable. And you know how you become unstoppable? It's by the basic psychological, behavioral development principle of simply saying it to yourself. Because whatever you say to yourself and believe over and over again, you start to believe as a reality. You start to walk it and talk it and act it. So what you say is, I am unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I don't care what it is. I'm unstoppable. Nothing will stop me. The greatest of all qualities to guarantee success is the absolute willingness to go at anything and refuse to stop until you achieve it. And you know something? The statistics show that 95% of the goals that you set for yourself, you will achieve if you refuse to quit. So the starting point is just to simply say, I am unstoppable. Say it. Say, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Now say it like you mean it. Get your thumbs out of your mouths and say it like you mean it. Say, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Once more, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Yes. So now from now on, whenever you see a barrier or wall, or you think of anything you want to do or be, you say, wait a minute here. I'm unstoppable. Nothing stops me. And you know something? You will develop yourself to the point where nothing...
What doubts do you have about yourself internally?
It's not, I've never, doubt is such a strange thing. I mean, it's, You know, there'll be times where you succeed and there are times that you fail. So wasting your time doubting whether you're going to be successful or not is pointless. It is. I mean, you just put one foot in front of the other, you control what you can't control, and then you see what the outcome is, right? If you win, great, you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey over again. If you lose, it sucks, but you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey all over again anyway, right? So it's really pointless to sit here and debate or have doubt or this, that, and the other. You train as hard as you can, and you step out there and you let it flow.
Now, all successful people are those who consciously are aware that the self-doubt that holds most people back is something that they are heir to as well. And they're alert and sensitive to it. When a person says, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? They have a tendency to say, well, I can't because of this and I can't. Wait a minute. There's a story of a little boy, goes to school for the first time, and the teacher says, do you play a musical instrument? He said, I don't know, I haven't tried yet. If you ask an adult, do you play a musical instrument, what will the adult say? Nope, I can't, no, never could, don't have, tone deaf, don't have any musical ability at all. Do you know that every child has perfect pitch up to the age of 5? That every child has the ability to play classical music up to the age of 5? The Suzuki musical training systems have demonstrated that. You can start teaching kids classical violin at the age of 3. Just when they can barely move their hands, they can start to play. It's phenomenal. Yeah, most of us believe, I can't, you know, I don't have it, I can't do it. Our natural tendency is to sell ourselves short. Our natural tendency is to think of the reasons why we can't before we think of the reasons why we can. So the key to breaking ourselves out of the comfort zone and breaking ourselves loose of the shackle of helplessness is courage and confidence. We neutralize the antidote to fear and ignorance is desire and knowledge. And the more we learn about what we want to do and be and have, the more we believe that we can do it. The more we believe that we can do it, the more willing we are to try. And the more willing we are to try, the more likely it is we will succeed. What is the first part of triumph? The first part of triumph is to try.
3 shifts. There's 8 instructors, 3 shifts. Because, you know, the guys going through Hell Week, they're up all day and all night for 130 hours. This is the promised land of mental hardening for me. I love this place. And you have the instructors who you know, they've been there, done that. Now they're instructing you. So they do their 8-hour shift. They have their parkas on. It's usually cold, coffee, drinking their coffee. And they're beating the crap out of us. And when I started realizing, I started playing mind games. And I was like, you know what? I bet these fuckers are looking at us, judging themselves about when they were going through Hell Week. About, let me see, I'm looking at Goggins right now. I was better than him. I was better than that guy. I was better than that fucker over there. And I was like, okay, you're going to judge me, right? All right. So that's what I'm going to do to you. So what I started doing was I got my boat crew 2. It's in the book. It's a great, great story. I said, come here, guys.
You can't break boat crew 2.
You can't break boat crew 2. So it's Wednesday, and everybody's broken. Everybody's beat up, man. And like this is when you start moving like a robot. Everybody's like just kind of just trying to get through Hell Week now, and your energy's zapped. And they know Wednesday's like that over the hump.
I love that you talked about that in the book too, that they put it in your head that Wednesday you're going to be tired.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing. They tell you how you're supposed to feel, so you are feeling that way. I was like, don't let these motherfuckers tell you how you're supposed to feel. No, it's day 1, motherfucker. This is hour 1. So I was getting my boat crew all jacked up. I said, we're going to take these motherfuckers' souls. So when they had us doing this simple thing that guys are struggling with, Boat Crew 2 was just launching the fucking boat and you're yelling, yeah, you can't fucking hurt us. You can't hurt Boat Crew 2. And I looked on the instructors' faces and it looked like someone had just fucked with their soul. And I looked at my guys in my boat crew and I said, hey, guess what? Those motherfuckers aren't fucking tonight. We own space in their fucking head. We own space. They're going to think about us tonight. They could think about how the
You're
fuck.
killing boners.
That's right. Charging. And we start fueling off of that. We start fueling off the fact that, man, it takes 1 second of energy to steal everybody's. And then you have all the energy you need. That's all you need. You need to look at someone's eyes. You know how it is when you fight somebody and you broke that motherfucker. He's like, oh, God, man, I don't want to go back to the next round. And you feel like, my God, I can fight all day. I can fight all day long. That's what taking souls is. But you have to have the will, the heart, the courage to go that distance when you're exactly jacked up. You have nothing left to give and give more.
Is work all the time you work. When you do work, work. We've been brought up with this post-World War World War II affluence where people could get a job and do the job and get a good salary and life was fine, and those days are gone forever. The fact is that the average person working today wastes fully 50% of their time fooling around. They waste it socializing. They waste it on telephone calls. They waste it on lunches and coffee breaks. They waste it reading the newspaper. And then when they do work the other 50% of the time, they do what's fun and easy. They work on low-value tasks. They spin their wheels. But the successful people are those who work all the time they work. So if you're going to work 8 or 9 hours a day, and let's say you have a family, so you can't work more than that, then be sure that when you do work, you put more of yourself into the work. Because there's nothing that makes you feel more powerful than to know that you're on top of your work and you're making progress and you're getting things done. One of the reasons why so many people are out of balance today is because they waste so blasted much time at work and then they have to take the work home. Remember the story of the fellow kept bringing a briefcase full of work home, and his daughter was asking his wife, "Mommy, how come Daddy always brings a briefcase full of work home and works at night instead of spending time with the family?" And she says, "Well, honey, he doesn't get his work done at the office, so he has to bring it home and work on it." She said, "Well, why don't they put him in a slower class?" When you waste your time at work, what you're saying is, I should be put in a slower class, and sooner or later, you'll be put in a slower class. That always happens. It's called unemployment, downsizing, and things like that.
Great pleasure in the fact that no one wants to be where the fuck you're at right now. Great pleasure in that. It most makes, it has to bring a passion out of you. It has to bring something very, very weird out of you, man. Like, people don't really understand what that is. When you're in the worst environment possible, the worst situation possible, and everybody's looking like, God, man, I hope this ends. And you see that. Time slows down and you see that. You're feeling that. Everybody has that look on their face like, God, this got to go. I don't want to be here.
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. Right? But you always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But, basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when, like, my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice. And, like, Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, what? Are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you?" So like I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So like every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like I'm fine, And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. Playing with Byron Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats. I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? Bird tough to defend. Why? Because you look slow as shit to me. So like, I'm missing something. So like, tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn.
In a survey of 104 chief executive officers a couple of years ago, they asked them, what qualities would most put a person onto the fast track for promotion in your company? And they almost unanimously answered the ability to set priorities and get the job done fast. The ability to pick what's important and then to get on with it and get the damn job done. Today, time is the currency, the key source of value of the 90s and beyond. And today, we value people who do things for us fast. Today, as a matter of fact, they have what is called queuing theory. When there's a queue and people join the queue, they say, and they estimate this all the time, how long a queue will a person join before they walk away and not buy any? It used to be 7, then it was 6, now it was 5, then it's 4. You know what queuing theory today is? It's 3. Person will walk, if there's 3 people in line, if that line is not moving, forget it, I won't buy it, I'll get it somewhere else. That's why they have to have people on almost like alert when people start to approach checkout counters or desks in banks. They watch, because as soon as there's 3 people, they better get up there, or those people will walk away, change their accounts. We don't even know we want it till today, now we want it yesterday. Isn't that right? When you sell products or services, it may take you 2 or 3 months to get the order, and now they want it last week. And they're very insistent it be delivered immediately, or they buy it from someone else. It's a most incredible thing. So therefore, get a reputation for having a sense of urgency. Get a reputation for having a bias for action. Get a reputation for fast tempo. Move fast, move quick. If a person asks you a question, you don't say, well, I'll get back to you next week. Get back to them now, quickly, as fast as you can. Develop a bias for action and say to yourself over and over, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. And if you add this like a rocket behind everything else, you become
love to do. I mean, we talk about hard work all the time. It's like, you know, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, you know, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. You know, if I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. You know, there's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you.
Failure. Remember that in order to be successful, you have to fail a lot. Thomas J. Watson, the founder of IBM, was once asked by a young man, how could I be successful faster? And he said simply, he said, double your rate of failure. If you want to be successful faster, fail more often. You see, there's a law of probabilities that says the more you fail, the more likely you are to succeed. The less you fail, the less likely you are to succeed. Peter Drucker says you would never hire a person who has not had some major failures in life because they haven't learned anything. So the key is, if you want to be successful, don't be afraid of failure. Has anybody here ever failed, by the way? Have you ever failed? Yes. Did failure hurt you? No. Failure makes you strong. There's an old saying that what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Failure has made you strong. Failure has developed your character. There's an old saying that the north wind made the Vikings. The cold of the north wind coming out of the north that they had to row against made them the most formidable fighting force in the world. It's failure that makes us strong, but it's the fear of failure that kills us. And the way that you deal with the fear of failure is, once you've decided what your dreams are and what you want to do, act as if it were impossible to fail. Imagine it were impossible to fail. Say, by gum, I can do that, and start to think of all the benefits of achieving that goal, and then act boldly. Confront your fears. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Do you know that the ability to confront the fear of failure and to overcome it and to move towards your fears rather than away from them is the one guarantor that you absolutely become unstoppable? If you do it over and over again, you develop the habit of courage. When you develop the habit of courage, eventually you find you're not afraid of anything. When you're not afraid of anything, your whole world opens up for you like a sunrise on the horizon. Everything becomes possible. You look around, a person says, what about this, what about that? I can do this, I can do that. I can do this, I can do that. You get to the point where you're willing to do anything except jump out of an airplane without a parachute. Because as they say, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving is probably not for you.
People only root for people who don't need it. Like, the amount of times when I was on my lonely path where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with. That's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. Once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But like, that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. And that visual, I think, is one that you can kind of take, because it is, people struggle to do things alone. And the path of the exceptional person is one of an exception, which means that you are not with other people. And rather than fighting that or bemoaning it, see it as an indicator that you're on the right path. Because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means you're not in the right place, because it means you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
We know that in America today, we have been sold a bill of goods. The bill of goods is that you can have a great life at 40 hours a week, and maybe 38 or 37 or 35. And the fact of the matter is, in 25 years of searching, I've never found a single successful person who works 40 hours a week. The number of successful people in America working 40 hours a week or less is somewhere between 0 and none. There aren't any anywhere. And yet we're told, well, if you can't do it in 40 hours, it's not worth doing. The average work week for successful Americans is between 50 and 60 hours. Many work 70 and 80 and 90. They work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Very few people successful on 5 days a week. Very, very few people. I love to meet one. They're rare. Maybe they're in the Smithsonian, but they're very rare people. The fact is that successful people, especially during the important years of your life when you're building your estate, work 6 days a week.
The thing about it, man, I talk about in my book, open-mindedness. What separates me from a lot of people is they go into a daunting task, and the task is overwhelming. Like when I heard the pull-up record was 4,020 pull-ups, and I was talking about breaking this record, people are like, oh my God. I went right to a pen and paper. They go, what are you doing? I'm doing the math, man. What are you talking about? I'm open-minded to the fact that, okay, if I do 5 pull-ups in a minute for so many hours, I can get so many pull-ups in. How much time do I have to rest? I was breaking the math down. You have to be open-minded to the possibilities that I can do this. Once you shut your mind down to the possibility that it can be achieved, there's no way it can happen. So that's why my eyes and my body light up about things, because I know that if you're in a fight, you have to attack. You have to keep attacking. The enemy has to know he is not going to give up. You must break the soul of whatever the fuck is in front of you. That's what I realized. I was never breaking the soul of anything in front of me. So that's why I came up with this thing called Taking Souls in my book. I started to devise ways to break a soul of a human being, of an object, of whatever's in front of me. If you keep on attacking something, nothing wants to stand in front of anything that is relentless. Nothing.